I was thinking.
I'll get those emails to you sometime. I tell you,
There's no hurry.
I was working on it. I had, but I can only do about 20 or 30 of them at a time because my hip hurts when I'm sitting in my chair now. So.
I was thinking about you the other day.
Oh.
But Oz would appreciate that. It's good beer.
How often I drink something that describes me.
And the company is Warthog Brewing or something. You guys want to get settled down? We'll get started? Okay. Thank you. Good evening and welcome. I'm Paul Ehrlich. I'm the president of the Minnesota Woodworkers Guild. Wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'm going to kind of be the MC tonight, and I'm going to chat for a few minutes first, so be patient with me, please. And unfortunately, this ends up staying on the recording, which is always awful. So we are a volunteer-led organization. We have about 850 members. We're fortunate to have that. There's a couple things I want to feature about the Guild. First, of course, is programs. Our program tonight's always a fun program. We didn't do a program last month, and this is always a great program because we get to hear from both the folks that have been awarded scholarships as well as the folks that are some of our winners of our Northern Woods. Couple of the things that we do great as an organization, one is we have this list of almost 50 sponsors. Our sponsors provide discounts and they provide expertise, and they're really great. It's everybody from Rockler and Woodcraft, Hirschfield. It's a long list of people. Some of the sponsors that you need to dig into the website a little bit. There's a new sponsor we just signed up who's in Japan, who sells Japanese tools but only by mail. Incredible things. Another thing that we have, and this connects with our sponsors, is we have something called special interest groups. And special interest groups are member-led groups. They're part of the Guild, but they're not part of the Guild. It's a group of folks that get together on their own, often in their own shops or at a public location, and they focus on various different things. So there's a special interest group that's focused on hand tools. There's one that's focused on luthiers. But there's two that I want to feature tonight, and we have a display in the back. One of them is called the Memory Box Special Interest Group, and the other is called the Memorial Box Special Interest Group, or it's actually part of the CNC SIG. Each of these groups got connected to a series of hospitals across the state for various programs. And this program started probably about 2 or 3 years ago. Long story, but having to do with a group of turners who were making beads for kids that were going through treatment. It's called Beads for Courage, fantastic program. Every time a kid goes through a procedure, a blood draw, a chemo treatment, whatever it is, they receive a bead. And the nurses that run this program said, this is a great program, we really love this, and the turners make the beads, and they make a little turn container to hold the beads in. The nurses said, every once in a while, a kid doesn't make it. And we want to do something for the family. And we've got these cards and these letters and the beads. And we want to give something to the family to hold all this. And they said, we've been ordering boxes and putting in wrapping paper, but they're just not great. And so they went to the turners and they said, would you do this? The turners said, no, we're really maxed out and it's not really our thing. So Todd Laubach and a group of volunteers got together probably 2 or 3 years ago and offered to start making them. And they make, Jay, how many? About 100 boxes a year? Yep. About 100 boxes a year. Very, very creative boxes, and they go to the families, and a lot of beautiful pieces that go. One of the hospitals that was part of this program said, this is great, thank you so much for doing this, but we have another need, and maybe you can help us with this. We do an annual Calvary program, and it's a once-a-year program. It's for families that have had a neonatal loss. It's a loss before birth, it's a stillbirth or some kind of event that's occurred where the parent a child before birth. And they said, we need you to build some kind of receptacle that we can use as part of the ceremony. They have a graveside ceremony with these boxes. Very specific requirements. The boxes have to be it can be customized but not personalized, and the boxes have to be able to be opened up by the staff, and they'll put remains in them and then close them. So the CNC SIG offered to start building these, and we make about 25 boxes for that program. So in the back, you'll see boxes both, and the delivery to Duluth goes up tomorrow?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, is that right? Thank you. 5:30 tomorrow morning. So we have some, not all of the 25 boxes up, a lot of great creative work. This year, and this comes back to our sponsors, this year when I was starting on my Northern Woods project, I went to Forest Products to buy lumber for my project. And Forest Products always has stuff sitting outside. They buy a bundle of wood for $5 or whatever. And I said, you know, we're doing this project for these memorial boxes, and I'm wondering if we might be able to get some kind of deal. And the guy from Forest Products said, tell you what, you come in, I've got an entire wall of scrap white oak. Just help yourselves, take whatever you want. So one of our volunteers went out, picked up a truckload full.
Yeah, he's got a small, a mid-sized pickup, and it was about 3/4 full when he showed up.
So I just finished the 10 boxes that I did, and I sent a note to Mike from Forest Products, and he said, you know, thank you so much for this. And this is the note he sent back. He said, please stop by anytime or have a volunteer to stop by to get as many shorts as you want for this cause. This is a very noble gesture, and the Guild is doing for grieving families in a very sad situation. I hope this eases their pain. Thanks, Mike. So this is kind of closing the circle, helping out the community and our public benefit. The memory boxes, the memorial boxes are part of our public benefit. Our scholarships are part of our public benefit, and it's something we're very proud of. Something we started doing at last month's meeting, or our last in-person meeting, which I guess was in March, is just taking a few minutes, and rather than having, if you're new, to stand up and introduce yourself, I'd like you to turn to the person next to you, and we're just gonna take 5 minutes here, talk about what you're working on in the shop right now. And I'm gonna kind of watch the clock and just take a few minutes to introduce yourself to your neighbor and talk about what you're up to.
Afternoon, evening.
Northern Woods.
You sign somebody up? Good, he's a good volunteer. Yeah. Polk, you want to be in charge of programs too? I got lots of opportunities if you want to sign up. Okay, let's get going again. So I hope everybody's got something great they're working on. For me, this is kind of the end of the season. I had a big Northern Woods project I was working on. I had a bunch of memory boxes I'm working on. I now have a very clean, empty shop. So I need to figure out what I'm doing next. Two things to mention. One is, Jay reminded me, if you're interested in participating in the Memory Box SIG or in the CNC SIG or any of the SIGs, stop by and see Jay or see Donovan if you're interested in the CNC SIG. There's also, if you go on the website, there's contact information for all the SIG leaders on the website as well. The other thing I wanted to mention is our next program is going to be on June 9th, and that's a program on wood turning in cooperation with the Wood Turners Guild. Is it the 10th? Okay, I took it off the website. So. Oh, okay. Okay. Boy, I tried to get it right. Couple other things to mention. We have just started this year a new education program. We have run 4 classes so far. There's 4 that are open. Almost all of our classes have been filled, so they frequently have waiting lists. We're getting great feedback on the classes, and there's a lot of announcements going on around education that I won't talk about right now. Another great thing that we do every year is the Woodworkers Expo. It's really become kind of the premier woodworking event in the Midwest. It's one of the few remaining woodworking events in the Midwest. It's going to be on October 16th and 17th this year. And if you say, well, isn't it always one day? The answer is not this year. It's going to be a full day on Saturday and another half-plus day on Friday. And Friday night is going to be something brand new that I'm really excited about that I think I've offered to take over, called the Guild Gala. And the theme for it is past, present, and future. We're going to be looking back on our history. We're going to be honoring some of our long-term members. We're going to be talking about what we're doing now and where we're heading in the future. It's going to be a kind of a semi-formal catered event with a cash bar available, and that will be on Friday evening, the 16th. It should be a really, really fun event. We're hoping to get a lot of members there. But that's on Friday night, the 16th of October, in the same building and space as the expo. Tonight we're going to have 3 scholarship winners that are going to present on their projects. We've traditionally done 2 scholarships, but this last year we got a special scholarship that's continuing into the future from Marc Adams Studios for a 3rd scholarship, which is fantastic. We have 3 scholarships to award in 2026, and I just sent an email out about this on Sunday. The application period is open until May 30th. There are some people that have applied, but we still have space available to look at other applicants. Another thing to remind folks of is that we are a volunteer-led organization. Everything we do is based on volunteers. We have no staff, so it is me. I've got a bunch of our board members here. I see Angela and Norbert and Ron and Carl. These folks do an incredible amount of work for us. Every once in a while we have a board member who turns over as well, and we need new volunteers. I have one really urgent one right now, which is Matt, who has done programs for 2 or 3 years now? 4 years at least, 5 years, seems like forever, is turning over. He's got things lined up through July for us, but we are looking for a new volunteer that would step in and help us put together our programs. So that is an opening. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about Northern Woods. Northern Woods this year was April 23rd through the 26th at Eden Prairie Center. We had 45 pieces this year, and I spent a lot of time at Eden Prairie Center. A lot of exhibitors came up to me and said, well, how does this compare to previous years? So I actually looked this up. Over the last 10 years, we've had as many as 70 to 75 participants and as few as the high 30s. So it was neither the highest nor the lowest. I had dinner with our judges on Friday night, and I said, what did you think? And they said, well, first of all, it was a fantastic event. We really enjoyed being judges. It was a great event. We really felt like we had a lot of synergy, and we came to agreement very easily. And I said, well, how would you like to have had 75 pieces? And they all looked at me and their jaws dropped. They said, this was really nice. So we'd like to have more, but judging 45 I think is a lot easier. I've talked to many of the judges. It's a big job to judge these pieces. As an exhibitor, I'm always critical of the judges because if my piece doesn't win, then obviously there's a problem. But we all just do that intuitively. But the judges do a great job. They put a lot of thought into this and a lot of consideration. And if you were at Northern Woods, you saw that we had a giant pieces. But there was one piece at Northern Woods that kind of everybody seemed to like. Daniel, I'd like you to come up and bring your bike with you, man. So we're gonna feature 3 or 4 of our winners tonight. But the first one is Daniel Nelson. Daniel's project, which everybody looked at, was like, oh my gosh, that is just lovely. And then they read his piece. Can I steal your thunder or not?
Go ahead.
They read his piece and he said, oh, by the way, I've ridden this bike 12,000 miles. And if you say, oh, that's really impressive, and he's like, oh, that's wrong. So what do you mean it's wrong? He said, I've ridden it 15,000 miles and crashed it.
And crashed.
So this piece won Best in Show. It won an award we have called the Peer Choice Award, where the exhibitors vote for a peer, and it won the Audience Choice Award on the last part of the last afternoon. So with that, Daniel, I'm going to let you talk, and
Okay.
you just need to turn that on, and I need to turn mine off. We're going to be all
I
set.
think that's on.
No.
No? Hello?
You're good.
My name's Dan Nelson. I am a fairly new member to the Guild. I've been involved just a couple of years. My primary occupation is I restore antique wood boats, and I've been doing that for 35 years full-time and almost 40 years part-time. I've also got a background in commercial cabinetry, and I probably hung around in my dad's shop since I was about 3. So I've been working with wood a long time. Doing wood boats, my projects move. They're not a piece that sits somewhere. They go 30 to 50 miles an hour, so they got to be built a little bit different. And I'm also a very avid biker, and about 4 years ago I had the idea of building a wood bike. I was motivated by a company out on the West Coast that was making them commercially with a CNC machine for a few years, and they went out of business. This one's all done by hand. This is actually my second bike. The first one is on the wall of my shop. I sent it to a non-destructive lab to x-ray it to see if there was any stress cracks anywhere, and there weren't. I changed the geometry a little bit, so this is the second one. There's a third out on the East Coast and a fourth I'm building right now in the shop. I am also working with Bosch America right now on designing a wood e-bike, which I hope to have done before next year's show. I brought a couple of examples along. I had a lot of questions I had asked were, well, how do you do the joints? And I just made up this little piece, and I can pass it around the room. Everybody said, well, it's a box joint. It's not really a box joint. It's every other layer, the joints go the other way. So there's 20 layers in this bike. There's 10 layers on each side, but every other layer, this joint's this way, now that joint's the other way. And this is all put together with West System Epoxy. I've been working with the Goujon brothers in Michigan for forever. There's a lot of different epoxies, but I really like their epoxy. It gives me a long working time, and it's incredibly strong. The other question I had asked was what's the black in the back, and that's carbon fiber. The carbon fiber gives me much more strength in that back stay. So when I took a piece out of the press, which is not really pretty, but this is my press. And this is that stay one that comes out of it. It's right there. There's no spring back. It's staying right where I pressed it. And it's just a mechanical press. I tried doing it with a vacuum press. I wasn't really happy with that. The mechanical seemed to work better. The interesting part about carbon fiber is, you can cut this with a good scissors. It'll wreck it, but you can cut it with a scissors. It comes like this. It's just a cloth. Whatever this piece weighs, you add that same amount of epoxy to it. So if this weighed an ounce, you would add an ounce to it, and you end up with this. This wrecks every woodworking tool I have ever seen. The only thing I found to cut it is either with a tin snips or with sandpaper. When I'd cut out this stay on a bandsaw, that's one bandsaw blade, and that's done, and it's gone. So to do one bike, it's two bandsaw blades, and they're just junk. And I've tried metal blades, and they don't work any better. There's a bunch of questions about weight. This frame weighs 3.5 pounds. The bike weighs 18 pounds. My goal after the e-bike is to make another one of these frames, but take another pound off of it. The worst thing that can happen is it'll break. So we'll see how it goes. I think that's about all I had. I really was very encouraged by coming to the show and meeting all these people. It's been great. I am a member of the Land O'Lakes Boat Club here in Minnesota, and the demographics look basically the same, bunch of old white guys. So thank you. If you got any questions, quick, I'm open.
Question back here.
Yeah.
If the frame is made out of wood impregnated with the carbon fiber, or walk me through that again?
The only place it's carbon fiber is on this piece.
I need you to repeat the question, because the people that are watching online can't hear.
What?
So when somebody asks a question,
Oh,
you need to repeat.
you asked about the impregnation. The only part that's impregnated with carbon fiber is the back stays.
Okay.
The rest of it is just Honduras mahogany. I was fortunate enough a few years ago to find out about a bunch of Honduras mahogany that got seized by customs in Miami, and a friend of mine and I flew down to Miami and bought it. It was a bunch of 6/4, 12 feet long, 10.5-inch wide stair tread material that was the most beautiful straight grain mahogany I've ever seen, and I'm running out of it, unfortunately.
What's the front fork made of?
Carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber.
Yeah.
Repeat that, please.
Yep. The front fork was made out of carbon fiber. So the frame is wood. There is a titanium. I found a machine shop down in the Bay Area in Frisco that there's a titanium insert at the headset, at the seat post, and at the bottom bracket. And then the rest on this are carbon fiber. I was tempted to hydro dip the front fork. I don't know if anybody's ever worked with hydro dipping at all, but you can put a film on, you can do any kind of design you want. I could make that look like wood if I wanted to. Kind of cheating, so I left it black. So.
What's the final finish on it?
The question is what the finish is on it. It's Wadco tung oil, but it's been put on several times, and at this point, it's been nicked, it's been dinged, it's been crashed. I wet sand it with 5,000 grit and then put another coat on. So it's getting burnished. It's getting a really good color to it, and the patina, the color has changed tremendously in the last 3 years. It's gotten a lot darker. So.
Is it all lamination?
It's all, the question is it all lamination? Yeah, it's all lamination. So there are, like this is the thickness of my lamination is about 0.125 inches. This piece ended up being a little thin. And then when I put these layers together, just to make the piece itself, I'm just using 5-minute epoxy, and I just used tape to clamp it together. Yep. Yep. So it's all been an experiment. I mean, as far as I know, nobody's done anything like this before, and there was just as good a reason why it could have failed as not that it did work. So Yep.
I'm curious, how does it, excuse me, the stiffness of this frame compared to other bikes you've ridden?
The stiffness of this frame is very similar to a carbon fiber frame. So, thank you, everybody. I'll leave stuff up here for now. Or Kate, just leave that there for now.
Great, thank you. Nice job.
Oh, here, you want this?
Oh, yeah. So Eric Johnson. So our next presenter is Eric Johnson. Eric's Chippendale table won the Award of Excellence. Award of Excellence number 1.
Okay,
So each judge has basically one award of excellence.
okay,
So I believe that's how that works.
yeah, okay. Is this okay, tucked in the corner like this? Or
Yeah,
should
that's
I
great.
drag-
Yeah,
okay.
you get your piece.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Eric Johnson. I have been working in wood for maybe 30 plus years, kind of since I got married. I started working in wood, mostly furniture, things around the home. I like doing new things, like, cabinetry flows into something like this. I was inspired when I saw, many of you know Tony Kublak. He wrote a book on this, and I was inspired by, and this was Tony's book that, I followed, and you're more than welcome to come up and take a look. It's very much like a hands-on, a lot of pictures, a lot of how-tos, a lot of details. And I was intrigued by the carvings. I hadn't done that before, really ever. And that was the challenge that was interesting and fun for me. It was stressful. There was a lot of stress, sore shoulders, all the things. I didn't want to mess it up or anything like that. And I'm happy with the results. One of the things, just not having done carving before, I don't have an example of the foot, but I made like 2 practice ball and claw feet, and then I did this shell carving because I had never done anything like this before. So this was my practice piece, and before I, tackled the final one. What else? Had to buy a bunch of new chisels to figure out how to do all of this, and worked really slow. It took a long time. I maybe spent about 8 months doing it, and it was a lot of make little bitty moves and then come back the next day and look at it and decide if that's what I really liked, or make changes or anything like that. Yeah, I don't know. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, sure.
So for someone who's going to try carving for the first time, what woods would you recommend, and what woods would you specifically not recommend? So you need to repeat the question.
Yes, right. The question is, what woods might I recommend or not recommend for carving? I've heard mahogany. I haven't done that, but I know like Tony does work in mahogany and stuff, and apparently that carves very well. This is in cherry, and I don't have experience with anything else. This one, okay. It wasn't too bad. I think I've read something like oak is perhaps pretty tough just because of the way the grain interweaves and runs and stuff like that. But, and then of course you always hear, something really, softwoods, I guess, are probably much easier, so, to start with, yeah.
What's your finish?
The finish on it is, there's a trans tint stain. I think it's a mix of red and mahogany. And then there's shellac, lots of coats of shellac. And then I tried doing a French polish on the top. So there's lots and lots of coats of shellac. And then to give it an antique look, there's a gel stain that's applied over all the finishes. And then you wipe that off and it seeps in and stays in the low points, gives it that antique look. So, yeah. So, yes, sir.
So that came out amazing. I saw it at the show and I was totally impressed, but I'm curious, would you do another carving project?
I've been asked that before, and I think maybe the answer is maybe. This was definitely an undertaking, and I look at other pieces, and it's a little bit of when I first started off, I was a little bit scared to death of it because I had no idea, and I just slow steps. By the time I was done, it's like, okay, I kind of, I feel kind of comfortable doing this. It's a lot of repeat, like all of these hundreds of little things. It's just repeating steps, and you get more familiar and confident doing that. Would I do another one? Maybe. I also do just in life like doing, okay, I've done this, now I'm intrigued by something else. And so like my next project, I'm making a kayak, a cedar strip kayak, something completely different challenges, different everything. And so for me, that's a little bit of the driver of wanting to try something new and challenging, and this definitely fit all of those and then some. So yeah.
For the drawing, carvings, do you make drawings?
Yes, I did. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I make drawings before I did the carving? So yes, in the book also, Tony has done like, you can follow this template, and that's usually pretty close. The one he made was probably slightly different than mine, and so you draw out a template, like on template paper, and then trace that on and make little adjustments to fit my legs, kind of thing for all of the design. The same with these all had to be spaced out, different than what was, in the book. And so, yes, you do that, take the background away, take that, and then just slowly, element by element, try to do my best. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Great. Yeah, thank you very much.
Can't imagine.
Oh.
Imagine it before. It's amazing. Talen? So our next presenter is Talen Rabe. Talen Rabe has a piece that he calls Red Rocking Chair. I think that's kind of underselling it, but this is a very special award. This is a award that there's a lot of discussion about because it's, from a maker's perspective, it's always a challenge. We call this the Best Original Design Award or Best Design Award. Talen, maybe you want to comment on this because there's a whole question in craft and in art about what is original and what isn't original. And so we have a lot of discussions and arguments internally about what this means, but this piece is definitely very, very unique and beautifully executed. Talen? Oh. And
I was going to use the camera.
Okay.
Oh, no. I'm just going to do some,
Okay.
I've got some samples.
Okay. And Eric, do you still have that mic?
It's over here.
It's over here. So we need you to get your mic. So you just need to clip that onto your suspender, and no, just that one, and and this goes in your belt. Cool.
So he introduced me. My name is Talen. I haven't really interacted too much with the Woodworkers Guild, but a little bit. The Northern Wood Show this year was my first time showing with the Guild this chair that he said I got Best Design for, which was a real honor. I put a lot of work into design. It's a huge part part of the process for me. It's when I have a good design in my head, that's what motivates me to put all the work into something like this. And as far as what constitutes original, definitely like I took detailed measurements of other chairs. I studied other furniture. I got books on proportioning systems and how to make sure it's going to be comfortable. But ultimately, it's original design. I drew everything out full scale by hand. So no doubt this one's original design, despite the fact that clearly nothing new is under the sun. So I'm not the first one to do any.
As Jake said, who was the chair, all art is derivative.
Exactly. Yes. So because I did win the best design, I'm going to talk a little bit about the design. The brass inlay was a big hit. I got lots of inquiry about that, so I'm going to go through just like some practical step-by-step of how I achieved that, because that was a big motivating factor for me in this chair. Was I just had this idea of I want to do this brass inlay over these cabriole curved legs. How do I go about doing that? And how I came into the brass inlay originally is I just had brass around at the shop, and I thought, I don't know. Oh gosh.
One's light and one is,
Oh, that's the light. So I only have zoom. Okay.
there's no zoom. It's just a focus.
Oh, it's just a focus. I see. You told me that already. Okay, anyways, so I realized that, well, all my saws have an 1/8" kerf on them. And I've got this 1/8" brass. So I took a hole saw and I drilled down 1/8 of an inch and I bent a brass around a ring and I pounded it in, and I thought, wow, that's gorgeous. So then I took a table saw and I did the same thing. 1/8" kerf, 1/8" rod, it should fit in perfectly. And that's what I did here in my sample. So if you want to just go home tomorrow and do some brass inlay, super simple if you want to do circles or straight lines. But how do I get over these curves? I can't use a power tool. Even a router is not going to get in there. So I had to do the whole process by hand. And here I have a sample that sort of has my step-by-step. The first thing I do is I draw my lines in there. And then second step, I go in and I make the line with a V-gouge. And this first cut is where it's most important. It's worth really taking your time there and get out to your line. And if anything, you want to be a little bit wide on that line, just a hair wider than your rod, so that later when you come in with other tools, you've got a channel that will cup your tools. Otherwise, they'll want to jump out and you're going to mar your wood. After that, I'm oscillating between a veiner gouge to get deeper and a scraper. And the real trick was making a custom scraper that I've made it out of an old bandsaw blade. It looks like that. It's filed down to exactly that 1/8 of an inch. It scrapes really nicely. It's just a dowel, like a plywood dowel that I cut in half because that's what was lying around. And then going back and forth with that and the veiner, I gouge out a little bit, and then I just scrape through that channel. And the first time you scrape, you want to go super slow, almost no pressure, and just be really careful because, again, it's going to want to jump out of your line. But once you've kind of got your line established, you can just kind of cruise till you're down to 1/8 of an inch. You test fit it, and then you're on to shaping the brass, which another custom tool that I had to make to shape the brass is this roller bender tool. You'll see these around for bending pipe on a much larger scale. This one I just threw together. I had some of this T-slot aluminum, but you can make it with a router and a plank of wood pretty easily. The bearings are just extra bandsaw bearings that I had lying around as well. You fit the rod in there, you tighten that until it starts to bend, and then you work it back and forth until you get the curvature you want. You flip it over to curve the other way, and you just kind of go back and forth testing it, and eventually it's close enough and you pound it in, and it should be tight enough that you have to really work it in with a mallet. And that's basically it for the brass inlay. I do want to talk about the overall design as well. And honestly, every part of this chair, I could go on and on and on. Every single feature of this chair was a new challenge and something that I just had to figure out how to do. But the overall design was something I was really excited about. So essentially every measurement in this chair is in golden ratio proportion to other measurements. And what I realized was, so the golden ratio, if anybody knows or doesn't know, I guess, it's just this number. It pops up all over in nature. It pops up in crystalline structures and the way that plants grow. If you research it, you'll find all kinds of superstitious woo-woo about it. But you might also find some good practical advice on design. People have been using it in design since the ancient Greeks. It's in the Parthenon. What I realized is that if I start with 3 1/4 inch and I multiply it by this number, that is an irrational number. Decimal points go on forever. But if I successfully multiply 3 1/4 by that golden ratio, I get numbers that are really nice. They all land to these 1/4 inch measurements. So I get 3 1/4 and 5 1/4 and 8 1/2. And these measurements that are easy to measure and easy to keep in my head. And then I use those to build everything in the chair. So for example, that 8 1/2, that's the length from the top of this leg to the bottom of this leg. I multiply that by the golden ratio, and I get the length from the bottom of the leg to the top of the stile there. And I multiply that by the golden ratio, and I get the width of the chair. I multiply that by the golden ratio, and I get the length of the rockers. I get the height of the rest. I get the curvature of the rockers and of the backrest. And if I go and I divide my 3 1/4 by the golden ratio, I also get numbers going the other way. And I use those, that 2 inch, 1 1/4, 3 1/4, and I use those to map out the curvature in the legs. So every detail, even the curvature of the legs and the armrest, is all golden ratio proportions. And that's how the form of the chair came about, and then just doing full-scale drawings on these golden ratio grids. Any questions? Yes?
So the brass is just pounded into the channel? You didn't epoxy or glue it?
There is also glue. And as you can see here, the glue will squeeze out. And if you do have that hair of extra width, that'll kind of glue it. Here I used hide glue. On the example, I used epoxy. I like hide glue because I can get super messy with it, and it's not going to interfere with my finish later on. Oh, and I scraped the brass to get it flushed. I forgot to mention that. I used like a cabinet scraper.
Where do you get your brass?
Yes, sorry. He asked where I get my brass. I order it from onlinemetals.com. They have by far the best prices for small quantities of metal. And you get big discounts pretty quickly. If you buy over 12 feet, you'll get like 50% off. All right. Yes?
Is all of it traditional mortise and tenon joinery?
Yes, everything is mortise and tenon. Sorry. He asked if everything is traditional joinery. Yes, so most of it is mortise and tenon. There's a spline here. This is a round tenon here. And then for the rocker itself, I've just drilled up and pegged. Yes?
What's the chair made out of?
He asked what it's made out of. It's all oak. That's what I had in the shop, and I didn't have space to bring in more. Nor could I find things. I would have loved to make it out of cherry, but I couldn't find anything thick enough for the most part.
What's the finish on it?
He asked what the finish is. The finish is tung oil that I mix my own pigments into. So I go in with a first layer. I use lamp black, and I mix a bunch of pumice into it, and I work that into the pores, the open pores of the oak, and you can see that it makes the grain kind of pop with that black color. I wipe off the excess, and then I go back over with burnt umber that I do in successive layers, and I kind of use different amounts of that burnt umber to sort of highlight different parts. So I'll wipe it off these knobs a little bit to give them a bit of a highlight, and I'll wipe it a little bit more on the ridges to highlight those. Yes?
What is the fabric and how is that installed?
He asked what the fabric is and how it's installed. I don't know for sure what the fabric is made out of. I bought it as scraps from an upholstery shop because they had exactly what I needed for a fraction of the price. But it's like of some sort of velvety material. This is a cushion on a piece of plywood that I've wrapped and then just installed on top. And this one, there is upholstery on the back. So there's this whole area is empty at first, and I staple it, and there's a channel that then all the staples are in this channel, and they get covered up with this welting.
So you do all your own upholstery too?
This is my first time, but yes.
Or less?
Yes. All right, well, thanks. Thank you.
Matt, did Andrew make it tonight? Oh, sorry. Okay, all right. We did have a potential fourth presenter, but it's our youth award winner. I imagine he's got a lot going on this time of year. There's one other thing I wanted just to mention about Northern Woods. Northern Woods is an enormous event. You can go ahead and get set up. There's a lot that goes on. As I said, everything we do is volunteer-led. But it's really important to thank three different groups that are involved with making Northern Woods happen. The first is the committee, who works diligently for about 8 months to get this ready. The committee members always say, you know, it's like rinse and repeat. We've done this. This is the 42nd year we've done it. But it's still an enormous project, and a lot of our Northern Woods committee members are here tonight. So I'd just like to, our Polk and Oz and others. So I'd like to thank the committee members. We also do this for 4 days, and our days run from 10 in the morning until typically 8 o'clock at night, plus setup, plus tear down. So there's an enormous number. How many volunteers, Polk? Who knows? 50 or 60 volunteers. And then finally our exhibitors, and our exhibitors put in time on the show floor. They volunteer, they make their pieces, they are part of a great event we do on Saturday afternoons called Meet the Makers. So a big round of applause for everybody that's involved with the show to make this happen. It doesn't happen by accident. It's an enormous effort, and it really does a fantastic job showing the capabilities of the Guild and showing the capabilities of our craft. To look at some of these pieces and to look at the skill and the craftsmanship that goes into it, as Roger Knudsen would say, it's a long way from birdhouses and nails to get to this point. So the other thing we're going to feature tonight is our scholarships. And as I mentioned, we give out 3 scholarships to people that would like to attend a class. The scholarships are up to $1,000 to cover tuition, although I'll tell you that the attendees all end up spending a lot more than that because they have travel and project stuff and other things. So we have 3 of our winners this year. One of our winners is a Guild member, but he lives out of state, so he's provided a video that we're going to watch. But 2 of them are here in person, and seems to be a lot of focus on chairs this year. Excellent. Our first winner is Barb Jaeger, and she attended a class at the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship. Is that correct? Yeah. And she's going to present on the Greenwood Chair. Barb?
All right. Hello. Thanks for the introduction. And first off, I'd just really like to thank the Guild for the scholarship that helped to pay for this class. It was on building a Windsor chair, and it was at the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship in Rockport, Maine. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the trip and the school, and then the process of chair building. I don't know if you can read this, but this was my car, the dashboard, when I left. And 1,600 miles later, and just about 24 hours of driving, I ended up in Maine. So I got there a day early and had time for a hike. This trail took me up to the top of Mount Batty. So just want to say, if you ever decide to go to the school, it's an absolutely beautiful area. It's so scenic, so try to find time on one end or the other to see the sights there. I also got my place to stay through the school. So I ended up staying at a house with a local resident in Camden, which is about just 5 miles maybe from Rockport. It was super there. The person that I was staying with was, I just loved getting to know her, and it was great not to be in a hotel. So I had my own room, and I have to say during the class time, it was really, really busy. I spent long days and often spent evenings there as well, but I had a great time there too. This is a view of, I think this is actually Camden. It's just, again, beautiful area. So the one thing I have to suggest though, if you go, you have to go to the Buttermilk Kitchen for breakfast. It's like super great food. And that's the view from the restaurant. So now we're gonna get into the woodworking part, I promise. So the next day after I arrived, I ended up at the school. There's a picture of the school here, and our class was in this far building over on the left. What's really neat though is when you're a student there, you're able to walk through all of the different buildings during the week and meet people that are building things and talk to them about their projects. My class was a 6-day class. It started on a Monday and ended up on a Saturday, but they have lots and lots of different classes. So they have 1 and 2 week workshops, and then they have these intensives that are somewhere between 6 and 12 weeks, I think, for like turning and carving. And then they have I think it's a 9-month comprehensive on furniture design as well. Let's see, where am I at? Oh, a couple other things. A couple nights a week too, they had some special things for students. So they had a potluck dinner where we got gathered and got to know each other, which was fun. And then they also had one night with a pizza night. They have a gallery here, and then the faculty ended up giving a short talk about something. So this is the class that I took. It was on Windsor Chair design. And the reason I chose this was twofold. One was that I had heard such great things about the school that I really wanted to go there. And then I also, as I've begun my woodworking journey, I just really wanted to find a class that would sort of be self-contained in an area of woodworking that I had never really experienced. This is our classroom, and we spent long days and many nights working in there. And these are the instructors. This is Aspen Golan on the left and Chelsea Witt, and they were both just really amazing woodworkers, also great teachers. And along with them, they had 2 assistants. The one on the left is Annalise and Ethan, and we had 4 instructors for 10 students and for the week. So when the class started, we had all these different aspects of chair building that we had to get done, so people kind of split up into groups. And here, just a few people went out with Chelsea to learn how you would split the green wood to prepare it for making spindles. So we didn't actually do this process, but she gave us a demonstration. So that green wood was already prepped for us. While that was going on, Aspen gave us a lesson in how to start preparing or making spindles. So here she is there, and here she's starting to use a draw knife to shape them. And once the demonstration was over, we started making our own shavings. So every student was given a shave horse for the week to use. Those are those things that were sitting on there. And they also gave us all of the tools that we needed. So some people brought some things, but if you didn't have them, they had everything that we needed. So as we started shaping the spindles the first day, we take them out of that bag. You can see they were wet wood that had just been split very recently, and makes it easy to work. And this is kind of the process. So first thing to do was to get them into sort of a square cross-sectional area, and then add a taper, and then shape them into sort of an octagon. And then here you can see using just a spoke shave here to kind of refine that, and then bring the ends down to the final size that we need. So every evening, all of the students gathered, we cleaned up, made lots of shavings every day like this, and got ready for the next day. And then the pieces that we worked on went into these kilns to dry for the evening. So basically, if we weren't working pieces, once they were shaped, they were put into the kiln to keep them dry. So there's a couple different ones that they had. So while that was going on, we also started working the bow that would create the back and the arms. Here's Chelsea kind of explaining what we're going to be doing. They did make these blanks for us with a rough cutout of, with a bandsaw, just so that we'd have time to finish everything. But what we did is, here she's explaining the different thicknesses that we needed for each part of this bow, so that when we bend it, it will be strong enough, but it also won't split. And this is, I'm using a draw knife here to just start to shape the end and get it ready for the next step. All right, so the next step was to put it in a steam box. And I'd never done this before, so it was super cool. You put it in here for a while until it's heated up and steamed, and then take it and use this jig here to bend it into shape. And so it's a little stressful because you have to move pretty quick, but we had some helpers, and so we bent it around this form that they already had ready for us. And here's it's in its final shape, and it's all clamped. And then this whole piece then went into the kiln overnight to dry. And this is the seat blank. Again, the blank itself had been glued up, but we did all of the drilling of the holes and all of the shaping and carving ourselves. And one interesting thing about these chairs is they're made with 3 types of wood. So this, I think, is white pine, the seat, because it's nice to carve. And the arm bow is oak, and the legs were ash. And so, yeah, just kind of an interesting fact. So here's Aspen showing us, we use these lasers at an angle to drill for where the arm posts and the legs would go through. And here she's giving us a demonstration again before we get going. And then once those holes have been put in, she's using a reamer to prepare the hole to accept the leg. And then it was our turn. And this is Kay. Kay was my chair making buddy. So at the very beginning of the week, the instructors paired us up into teams of 2. So we did all of the pieces together the whole week, which was great, because then we had someone that could kind of make sure that we weren't drilling on the wrong side of the piece, or just that everything was going well, and kind of be moral support. And Kay was awesome. So he's drilling the hole. Here you can see me then reaming out one of the holes on my chair and testing the fit. And here you can see just lined up with the laser. We were just double checking. If those are off, it causes issues. So yeah, that was that part. On to the seat. So the next part for the seat is to, once we had all the holes drilled, we started doing the carving, and Aspen's giving a demonstration here with a trebuchet showing how to scoop out the center part. And she was just a hoot. It was super fun. She always kept it light and fun. We were working long hours, but we had a great time. And then once that center part was carved, then we started working on the edges here, starting with a draw knife, and then we went down to finer and finer tools like spoke shaves and scrapers to finish up. Here, Kay's working on his. Mine's right here. These lines were just drawn so that we kind of knew exactly how far to go down and how to make the correct shape. And this is my seat pretty much done. So the last step was basically to use a card scraper to just smooth it out. And then it was time to try to put this thing together. So here, Kay's working with Chelsea on drilling the holes in the legs, and then it was glue up time. So we're using hide glue, putting it in the hole, and then this whole apparatus was put together and glued into the base, which is the seat. Once it's glued in, they added shims to keep those legs locked into place. So now we've got the legs on, and we've got to put the rest of it together. So this jig here was used to line up exactly where the arm bow needs to be, and then now we're drilling through that and through the seat to accept where the spindles are gonna go. So every spindle had to fit exactly, as like my Game of Thrones chair here at this point, right? So every single spindle had to be exactly the right size to fit the hole that had been drilled through. So all of them were checked there, and then they were checked also in the seat as well. This part was like the most stressful part coming up. So it's the last day, it's the morning of, we're done at like noon, and we're gonna do the glue up. And so putting the spindles in isn't so bad. You can put them in one at a time. But then when you have to put the arm bow on, you have to put glue in all of those spindles and put that thing on, all of them at once. Like they all have to line up. So it sort of took a village. So you can see here, Chelsea's helping a couple students to put on the glue. And this was happening all over the room, like everybody was doing it at the same time. And then the arm bow had to go on, and you can see like one little spindle's out and you can't get it on. You know, it was kind of stressful. But you know what? Every single chair got done, and we just had like an hour or so left. Here, Kay is just finishing up with just kind of cleaning up a little bit. Basically, when we left, the chairs were all done, and basically just like we used card scrapers. Probably they just need a good sanding and then finishing. And most of these chairs are finished with milk paint. This was our group that taught us. They were just awesome. They worked super hard. And I think they said that we were the only class the whole summer. We were in October, right? So the whole class that got their projects fully done before they left. And I think it's good because if you brought home half of a Windsor chair, you might always have half of a Windsor chair, right? Other things you could find someone to help you. So anyway, I'm sure there's Windsor chair builders out here too. But so here's our class with all our chairs. It was super fun, great group of people. And here's my chair. And it still looks like this today, but soon I'm gonna get back there and get it sanded so that I put the finish on it. And I just can't say enough about the school. It was such a fun place to go. They have all sorts of classes that you can take, and I hope to go back there again someday to take another one. Is there any questions?
What was the name of the school?
The Center for Furniture Craftsmanship. Peter Korn started it, I don't know how many, a long time ago. And the gentleman that I've been working with that's been teaching me, he used to teach a hand tool class there. So that's kind of, actually I asked two people without telling them anything, like what class would you take? Anywhere in the country, any class, anything. They didn't actually pick this class, but they both picked this school, and weirdly they both picked the same class too. But yeah, so just, it's such a fun place, and yeah.
Barb, how did they get the lasers so that they weren't, it looked like they were at an angle, they blocked them somehow, or, because my laser always wants to go plumb in.
They had like a little jig that was just like a piece of wood that they had a screw on that they just to oh, I am sorry, I blew it. I've been watching all day and I thought I could remember. He asked, how do we get the laser at an angle? And what they did is they had like a little jig that they screwed it onto that you could tip it, just so it was. But the really interesting thing is, I don't know that I could find that picture again, but if you could see that chair, there was all those lines on the chair everywhere. So when you do the legs, you have a rake and a splay. Like it's going this way and it's going this way, and that's super complicated. And so they're super clever because what they do is they take those two angles and combine them, so you only have one angle. So there's a line and an angle. So you have one laser that shoots down the line, and then you have another one that crosses that gives you the angle. Do you have a question? Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was super cool how they did that. Like that was a kind of clever. There's tons of history with this, and the women that were involved and started this have really gotten into this. And just really briefly, they've started this organization called the Chairmakers Toolbox, and you should all go and Google it. It's just incredible. They have kind of 3 prongs to it. The first prong is they're trying to get people that are not traditionally in woodworking. They're giving scholarships to people to go to classes to build chairs. The second one is they've been working with a lot of makers to make the hand tools that you need for building chairs. And then the third piece is they're working with people where if someone is done woodworking or they pass away, finding ways to have those tools gifted to someone who would like to go on and learn this craft. And really and that actually happened to the woman that started this class. That's how she decided to continue this. She got this gift of these tools, and she wouldn't have been able to do it without it. And so the only criteria that you have to agree to is that you never sell the tools. You gift them on to someone else when you're done. So if you want to know about that, talk to me after. Thank you.
I love your story.
Thank you. I was a little worried that people were like, "You're showing me the map."
It's hard to tell the whole story, and it's hard sometimes when you're in a class to stop and take pictures.
Yeah, I have to say too that I'm in this design group, and I gave a really brief talk there, and I feel kind of like this here. It's like I feel like I play hockey, and I'm like my little hockey team, and I'm like presenting how to play hockey to the Minnesota Wild. So I know you guys have a lot more experience than me, but thanks for listening.
Dan, you want to talk? So our next presenter is Dan Berks, and Dan went to the Marc Adams School, and did a class with Michael Fortune on tables. Is that right? One table. And do we have a mic for you? That's a mic for you.
So yes, I did go out to Marc Adams, which is south of Indianapolis. Very large school, similar to Center for Furniture Craftsmanship, but not as pretty. I was looking through the catalog, and Michael Fortune is a designer, furniture maker. He's been in business for 50 years. His motto is no right angles, no sharp corners or anything. And I saw this picture in the catalog, and the top's not, it has a top, it's not right there. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I just thought the design was so spectacular. I said, I need to make that. And so when I should backtrack and say, thanks to the Guild, I received a scholarship, so thanks to the Guild and the board for granting me that scholarship. And Marc Laub is the member who gave the funds, donated the funds for the scholarship, so thanks to Marc as well. So I got down to the school, and we had a class of about 16 people in the class, which is kind of large. But the shop is amazing. They have all the tools you could ever dream of. So we all introduced ourselves. Michael started out by saying that he doesn't do right angles, he doesn't do squares, he doesn't do rectangles, and that this project is probably about, he said, 1,000 times more complicated than any square table. And when he said that, I just kind of muttered a couple of F-bombs underneath my breath and said, maybe I should go down to the hall where they're making square tables. But I stayed in, and we introduced ourselves, and I mentioned that I get so nervous about making mistakes that I make mistakes, and I got nervous. We started out by making an exoskeleton, which goes like that on either side. And there is a base to it as well. And because all of the pieces are so curved, as you can see, there are no straight pieces here, it's very necessary to have this exoskeleton as you're making the pieces, to clamp them in place, see how they fit, and have little jigs to hold them in place as well. Again, the shop was wonderful. There's about 4 or 5 different miter saws, each set at a specific angle, each set for a specific purpose. 4 or 5 band saws, each set with a specific blade, tilted at a specific angle for a specific purpose as well. So everything was laid out for us, which was great. Everyone, and Michael would give lectures about, we're going to do this today, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And everybody else seemed to really know what was going on. They understood what the process was and why they were doing it. And I'm kind of scratching my head going, why are we doing that? But everyone was very helpful. In addition, my hearing aids got all plugged up with sawdust, and so I couldn't hear it. But everyone else helped me out and guided me through the process. So all of these pieces, all the curved pieces, these and these and these, are all bent laminations. We sliced our wood, this is cherry, sliced our wood into 8-inch strips, and then those pieces had to be planed down so they're smooth on each side, and then got glued together and put into a form. A form for this, a form for that, and a form for that. This was one piece, and then it got sawed lengthwise into 2 pieces, and same with this, and same with these as well. They have a panto router. These are all floating tenons, and they have a panto router, which is an amazing machine. And what that allows you to do is that you cut the angles first, and then put the flat piece right up against the router, and it cuts into it just at the right angle. The legs are not laminated, but they were cut from one piece of wood and then cut out with a bandsaw and then tapered with a router. So in the class, which was about 7 days long, we didn't put the table together. We just get all the pieces cut with the machinery that they had and then brought them home. The class was back in October. I just put the screws in today. I work in taxes, so I was busy doing taxes. So again, all the jigs are interesting and necessary to keep the pieces in place. And then we had clamps, holding the pieces in place as we're aligning, measuring again, putting them in place, repositioning them. And so very much a back and forth process to make sure. Michael is a stickler for detail, which any woodworker would be, but he's like way up there. So he was talking about, the angle, the center has to be here, and it has to be so many inches down to here, same on that side, and everything else. Now the top was made out of a piece of stock, cut at an angle, 10 degrees, like that, and the top, flat on top, will be like this, and then is angled underneath at that 10 degrees. And then these aprons are also cut at 10 degrees. So the top will sit right on the apron. There is a center spline that will go in between here and will protrude out farther. The table will come out to about that far on each side. And what was really opened my eyes when Michael was talking about design, now of course you always want having the joints fit, and that's all pretty much standard. You got to have that. Everyone takes that for granted. But what he was talking about in the design, and of course, again, when I look at the design, I just go, wow. But on the top, these pieces will be cut back and round it out. He takes out a French curve and can pretty much choose whatever curve you want. But again, he was so specific in the flow of the lines and how they connected and how they joined together. And it was just really amazing to go, oh, really eye-opening to realize what goes into it and how much you think about it and what the result is. These are not clamps, but I would use these. I didn't use these, but I'm just using this for example that these pieces would be clamped to the exoskeleton and everything is cut at an angle so that everything fits together. And then it becomes a big jigsaw puzzle when you get it home and you've got all these pieces. You start putting them together and go, okay, if I put this one in first, then I can't get that one in, and if I put that one in first, and I can't get that one in. So you kind of have to figure out how are you going to assemble it, in what process. And I managed to figure it out. Joints didn't come out quite as tight as I would have liked them to be, but overall I'm reasonably satisfied with it. I think that's about all I can think of right now. This is a wipe-on tongue oil. It's on cherry. And I got kind of nervous about, of course, cherry has that blotching pattern to it. And I didn't know if that was acceptable or not, if it's something that should be covered up or sealed up with a sealer, but I didn't. I'm not sure if I'm going to use the same thing for the top. The top is also cherry, and that center spine is maple. And it's kind of has a wedge shape. I'm not sure if I'll use the tongue oil. I think I might want to try something a little bit more durable. I'm open to suggestions on that. Again, we bandsawed the legs and routed them. I routed them at home, and the router got away from me, and the piece of wood got away from me, and I did have a couple of little jab marks in there. And I got an unintentional manicure on the router as well. Very lucky it was nothing at all. I think that's all I can think of at the moment. Questions? No? Yeah.
The rounded templates or jigs, are they like a clamping call?
Yeah, well.
Repeat the question, Dan.
Yeah. This is called the foot, and the jig that's shaped like the foot is a clamping caul. It could be clamped here to here and on each side. Also, all these things are reminding that about clamping and gluing. So, of course, a straight clamp doesn't fit well on anything that's curved. So you have to make a jig. So this is a jig that we made to put on the apron, and then the clamp would be clamped down, and then the clamp would go like that to clamp it together. So that was pretty innovative. Not my idea, of course, but there's a way to do everything. So I forgot to mention my woodworking experience has been kind of sporadic. I know a lot of you talk about days in your dad's shop or working with your grandpa and all. And well, I had a dad, kind of a part-time dad, but he did have a shop, and I thought it was really cool. He didn't do much in the way of woodworking. He was an extreme do-it-yourselfer, would not hire anything out for anything. Always had the attitude that if you want the job done right, you have to do it yourself. No need to hire anyone. You've got to be a perfectionist about it. And so that was what I was partially raised with, and really didn't think much about going to classes, but I did. This is actually the third class that I've taken. First one was out at Snowmass with Tom Hucker in Colorado at the Anderson Ranch. and then another class at at Marc Adams with the Federal guy, the guy who makes Federal furniture. Those pieces are still sitting on my desk. But again, I think it's just for what you can learn, what other people know, and when they share that experience with you, it's really an amazing event. That's all I got.
Really good at turning this off. Matt, for Jacob, we have a video we're going to show. Great. So Jacob actually lives in somewhere in Illinois, right? Is he in Champaign or something?
I don't know where it is, actually.
I traded notes with him, but he moved, and he is a guild member, but he is. He said, yeah, I'll come back and present, but I won't be there. So. So what do you want to do for audio? What? No, let's just give it a second. It's just warming up.
Making noise.
That's a good sign, yeah.
There we go. Yay.
So what do you want? Do you want my mic?
Nope, there's that one. No, it should be on it. It's at 100.
Okay, but there's an on and off usually on there, okay.
If anybody has any expertise on this, I am welcome for.
So it's not going forward? Or?
No, it is going forward. It's just not playing any sound for some reason. So I wonder if it's. See, I take this out, I bet it plays sound.
Jacob Ainsworth, and I'm one of the scholarship recipients for the year 2025.
So let's
try this.
First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you for this.
So it goes it takes a signal.
So let's go to settings.
Oop. There, it's all right. It's still not, yeah, it's still not doing the same.
All right, so hang on. I'm not a Windows guy, so hang on.
I'm not even, well, this is my wife's computer. And it's touchscreen.
Oh, does that help?
Where's the touch keyboard?
Audio.
Where the hell's this?
Continued classes with him.
There you go.
Now, with that, I was doing mostly fine woodworking, all kiln-dried lumber. This really threw me for a loop because this chair was split out of a log. It was completely... Hello, my name is Jacob Ainsworth, and I'm one of the scholarship recipients for the year 2025 through Woodworkers. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity. And with that opportunity, I took that grant and I went and learned how to make traditional Windsor chairs. This class took place in Belvedere, Illinois, under William Boyle, who will henceforth refer to as Bill. That's what he goes by. And with Bill, I made this continuous arm rocking chair. Bill was trained by Curtis Buchanan, who is the original designer of this chair. He's just a really fun guy to take a class with. I couldn't recommend it enough. I learned a lot from him, and it was kind of an adventure. Now, I myself, I caught the bug of woodworking right after I graduated college. What was that, about 6-7 years ago here. And I took the Unplugged workshop with Tom Casper very early on in that, and after that, continued classes with him. Now, with that, I was doing mostly fine woodworking, all kiln-dried lumber. This really threw me for a loop because this chair was split out of a log. It was completely wet when I got to it. The only part that was dry was the seat. So, while I can't get to every aspect of what it took to make this chair in these 15 minutes I've got here, I'm hoping I can teach you a few tips and tricks that helped me a lot when I was learning how to work with Greenwood here. Alright, so one of the first things that really threw me for a loop with chair making in general was the concept of green woodworking. Now, I've been working with kiln-dried lumber as long as I've been woodworking. You know, many of us know that there's a right and a wrong way to remove wood. You go the wrong way, you get tear out. So you typically want to do something like playing with the grain or whatever you say. Now, that's true with greenwood as well. But there are some other concepts within the wood that I just was unaware of entirely, and I'm going to review them. So when we're splitting out wood for our legs and for our spindles, checking is a very common problem. And I don't know if you can see, this log does have some checking on it. It's a little older. It's not quite dry yet, but we are getting some checking. Now, as you make these small parts, it becomes an increasingly large issue. So, within this log here, there are 3 planes. Basically, we have the longitudinal plane, which is the length of the log. It's not any of these faces. We have the tangential plane and the radial plane. Now, the tangential plane is the wood plane running parallel to the growth rings. The radial plane runs perpendicular to the growth rings. So that's this face. An easy way to think of the tangential plane is basically the bark. Every growth ring layer in is on the tangential plane. So when you're removing wood from this side in, or just really parallel with the growth rings, you're removing from the tangential plane. I promise I'm going to try to say that word a little bit less from here on out. Now, the tangential plane, when you're removing wood from it, it's a little bit more tricky. It wants to tear out, but it's very easy to remove wood very quickly. That will come up again later. The radial plane, however, is very buttery and nice to remove wood from. It's a little bit harder. You're going to have to put your back into it, but it leaves a very nice surface. So, then I'm one of these. Hello, my name is Jacob Ainsworth, and I'm one of the scholarship recipients for the year 2025 through the Woodworkers Guild. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity. And with that opportunity, I took that grant and I went and learned how to make traditional Windsor chairs. This class took place in Belvedere, Illinois, under William Boyle, who will henceforth refer to as Bill. That's what he goes by. And with Bill, I made this continuous arm rocking chair. Bill was trained by Curtis Buchanan, who is the original designer of this chair. He's just a really fun guy to take a class with. I couldn't recommend it enough. I learned a lot from him, and it was kind of an adventure. Now, I myself, I caught the bug of woodworking right after I graduated college. What was that, about 6-7 years ago here. And I took the Unplugged workshop with Tom Casper very early on in that, and after that, continued classes with him. Now, with that, I was doing mostly fine woodworking, all kiln-dried lumber. This really threw me for a loop because this chair was split out of a log. It was completely wet when I got to it. the only part that was dry. So while I can't get to every aspect of what it took to make this chair in these 15 minutes I've got here, I'm hoping I can teach you a few tips and tricks that helped me a lot when I was learning how to work with Greenwood here. All right, so one of the first things that really threw me for a loop with chair making in general was the concept of green woodworking. Now, I've been working with kiln dried lumber as long as I've been woodworking. You know, many of us know that there's a right and a wrong way to remove wood. You go the wrong way, you get tear out. So you typically want to do something like playing with the grain or whatever you say. Now that's true with green wood as well, but there are some other concepts within the wood that I just was unaware of entirely, and I'm going to review them. So when we're splitting out wood for our legs and for our spindles, checking is a very common problem. And I don't know if you can see, this log does have some checking on it. It's a little older. It's not quite dry yet, but we are getting some checking. Now, as you make these small parts, it becomes an increasingly large issue. So, within this log here, there are 3 planes. Basically, we have the longitudinal plane, which is the length of the log. It's not any of these faces. We have the tangential plane and the radial plane. Now, the tangential plane is the wood plane running parallel to the growth rings. The radial plane runs perpendicular to the growth rings, so that's this face. An easy way to think of the tangential plane is basically the bark. Every growth ring layer in is on the tangential plane. So when you're removing wood from this side in, or just really parallel with the growth rings, you're removing wood from the tangential plane. I promise I'm going to try to say that word a little bit less from here on out. Now, the tangential plane, when you're removing wood from it, it's a little bit more tricky. It wants to tear out, but it's very easy to remove wood very quickly. That will come up again later. The radial plane, however, is very buttery and nice to remove wood from. It's a little bit harder. You're going to have to put your back into it, but it leaves a very nice surface. So, this will come up repeatedly throughout the video, unfortunately. I'm going to try to keep the vocab to a minimum, but it's very important as we show basic riding techniques along with shave horse exercises. All right, welcome back. So the first step in making a Windsor chair is to craft your parts out of a green log. Now in my case, that was
Maybe we should just post this. Maybe. Yeah, it's not getting the spin, as they say. Yeah, we can post it on the website.
Yeah, we'll post it on YouTube.
Or on the YouTube thing.
Thank you, Jacob. So we'll go ahead and post this online. I apologize for the technical difficulties. We try and do the best we can sometimes with what we've got. So thank you everybody for coming tonight. If you're interested in joining the box making group or the CNC group that is involved with this project in the back, please see Jay or Donovan or Ken, 3 guys in charge there. And look forward to seeing everybody at our next meeting, which will be on June 10th. And it's going to be focused on turning. Should be fun. So thank you very much.
Well, maybe he's a nicer guy because he's Canadian. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Yeah, this was really fun to see these presentations. I commend you for having the courage to go out there and do it. It's awesome.
Everyone.
My mind with the Golden Reach show. I read that in the description of the Greenwood Chair. Made it make a lot more sense.
So which grade is it's a long time. Hand tool donations and stuff.
Yeah, so it's called run by this woman that taught the class. And so she, when she got into it, she got this grant, they have an organization. Yeah, they have like this one thing. They try to help people that are more in the I was a little bit envious.